Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime has been released, and the prototype has finally returned. What new details have emerged about this enigmatic character? What is the Hour of Joy really about, and who is behind it? We'll discuss this and much more right now. If you're interested, be sure to like this video, and let's get started. The prototype, or Experiment 1006, was first mentioned back in the very first chapter of the game. As you neared the end, you might have discovered a gray cassette on the floor titled Final Log, recorded by an unknown scientist of the company. And when played back, we see and hear the following.
Final log. In relation. Experiment 1006. The prototype. Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set, as well as the skill set of all other experiments of his type. Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him. His absence was a flaw in the scientific process, which should have under no circumstances been left unaccounted for. That's why I'm making this log, so that the same mistake won't be made twice. Any future experiments will need to be contained and disposed of in a secure location. I'm not worried about myself. One breakthrough and I'll be back. We must forge onwards in the name of science, whether those who are beneath us understand it or not. End of...
Here, just a drop of insignificant information about this mysterious creature is revealed. The scientist simply confirms that the prototype was involved in some terrifying events that occurred today at the factory, which is also confirmed by the multitude of screams in the background if you listen carefully. But now that we have the third chapter, it becomes evident that this recording is the last in the history of the factory's existence, and it was made during the Hour of Joy, which we'll talk about a bit later. If we return to the trailer for the first chapter, we'll find additional mentions of the prototype. In this trailer, there is a wealth of hidden text that almost no one paid attention to. Here, it's referred to as the perfect example of what they are trying to achieve. They discuss a minor detail about this monster's digestive system, which, while it exists, is not necessary for the prototype's survival, unlike others. The note is quite intriguing, although it's unlikely to be so important for the story of 1006 itself. So, we move on because the second chapter provided much more information and new questions. At the end of the game, you come across a cassette titled Log 08502, recorded by another unknown scientist of the company. It describes an incident related to the prototype's attempt to escape from its cell. Using a laser pointer that it created from makeshift materials, it disabled the surveillance camera for almost 30 seconds. Once the camera was restored, the prototype was not in sight. A specialist inspected the cell and found that the prototype had hidden in one of the blind spots. It tried to escape through an open door, but another employee remotely closed it, leaving the girl trapped with the monster. As a result, she died. Listening to this recording, we learned about the truly high intelligence of 1006 and its propensity for violence, which set it apart from other experiments. As the scientist mentions at the end of the cassette, citing experiment 1170 Hagavagi as an example, the optimal experience where there is almost a perfect balance between high intellect and excellent obedience. In the case of today's protagonist, its distinctive features were more of a huge problem than a great breakthrough in science. Before obtaining the aforementioned cassette, the player goes through a huge chase with Mommy, eventually killing her in a grinder. Here, the most important detail is the antagonist's words before her death. She screams about becoming a part of him. Ultimately, the prototype's hand emerges to take away Mommy's remains into the darkness, signifying its dominance or godlike status for many monsters, and there are reasons for this. If you forgot or didn't know, on the death screen, you can receive the following message. The prototype saved us. Isn't he wonderful? Indeed, in a literal sense, he saved everyone from the torments inflicted by the workers on the experiment, as the third chapter once again confirms. That day was called the Hour of Joy, and we'll return to it a bit later. Thanks to this and several other factors, 1006 became a godlike creature for many monsters. To survive, they simply obey him, doing whatever he commands. Mommy understood that if the player didn't perish at her hands, the prototype wouldn't be pleased. In our case, however, it turned out differently. She died by our hands, and the prototype took a part of her body to assemble its own and possibly acquire some abilities, such as Mommy's plasticity. At the moment, these details are unknown to us. It was insanely interesting, but let's summarize what we've learned about Experiment 1006 from the first two chapters of the game. So, the prototype is the most intelligent, strongest, and most malicious creature in the Poppy Playtime factory. It's a leader for many monsters and capable of controlling them. It's involved in horrifying events and is the reason for the factory's closure. Currently, it's in the process of creating a new body, partly thanks to us. Yet, what new revelations does the recently released third chapter bring? Firstly, as you enter the vast underground and explore the caves, you can discover the sanctuary from the trailer, and I must say, it's both amusing and eerie to behold. The altar, as you may know, consists of numerous toys and deceased experiments, such as the small smiling creatures, the well-known mommy longlegs, and somewhere among them even boxy boo hides, and most interestingly, a deceased employee. And after we leave the playhouse area, Ollie contacts the player again, asking for our opinion on that very altar. He mentions that it was built by Catnap specifically for the prototype. It's just an imitation, but in reality, everything is much scarier. With these words, Ollie essentially confirms that the sanctuary is based on the real appearance of the prototype, although it doesn't replicate it exactly. Until now, what Experiment 1006 looks like remains unknown. We've only seen its hand. Everyone has different guesses, but I think the vast majority imagine it to be roughly similar to the altar, which makes sense. Next, we come across a cassette titled Log 24459, recorded by the familiar character named Harley Sawyer. Upon playback, we hear the following dialogue.
Log code 24459. In relation, Experiment 1006. The prototype. Stubborn as he is, and always silent with each passing session, I'm still uncovering fresh data nonetheless. Today's discovery. End of log.
Ready to talk now, are you? I possess
A question.
Go ahead.
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to what exactly?
You stick us, beat us, tear at flesh.
Do you feel it?
There's a secret inside you, 1006. Valuable beyond all measure. I cut and prod and burn at it, and I get closer with each session. So speak, or don't. Fight, or give in. Regardless, I learn something new about you every day. It excites me.
Thank you.
You thank me?
Absolutely.
I learn something new about you every day.
One of the best cassettes of all time, because here, the presence of a voice in the prototype is definitively confirmed, and we hear for the first time how it speaks with a bunch of different voices. At the end of the recording, 1006 completely repeats Harley's phrase, even mimicking his voice. This detail is incredibly intriguing because, with its high intellect, it's capable of even such mimicry effortlessly. Consequently, we can speculate that some voices in the game were already impersonated by the prototype. This particularly applies to the new mysterious character, Ollie, who communicates with us over the phone, although these are just ordinary guesses at best. Moreover, at one point, the prototype poses a question to Harley, asking whether he and possibly other workers feel any emotions about what they do, mentioning torture and other things, and also inquiring whether they feel guilt for it. This hints that the prototype was actually fighting for justice, wishing to help children and all monsters, suggesting that it's not as terrible as it seems, and partially, this is true. Finally, at the end of the game after defeating Catnap, Poppy rewards us with a cassette named Hour of Joy, which, according to her, will answer our main question about what really happened at the factory that day. Well, that's exactly what happened at the factory 10 years ago. It's the reason why a huge number of employees disappeared without a trace, and the Playtime company ceased its operations. And you understood it correctly. Behind these horrifying events stands none other than the prototype. After watching this recording, Poppy tells us that they killed everyone, even the innocent. But the hour of joy wasn't worth it because it led to nothing, so 1006 must pay for it. Undoubtedly, some questions regarding this still remain unanswered. However, some picture of the plot has formed in our heads, and it's definitely progressing and progressing well. Guys, I tried to gather in this video all the known information about the main antagonist of the entire game, presenting it briefly and clearly. If I missed something, please let me know. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss fresh content. I would be incredibly pleased. Of course, feel free to write comments, theories, opinions, anything, and definitely tell me if you liked my video or not. And with that, let's wrap it up. Good luck. We'll hear from each other very soon. Bye.